paper magic will survive like the heat death of the universe, and will...
Oh, it's a smuggler's copter. Would you like to crew this? And then it crashes because they don't understand arithmetic.
All your cards belong to me.
2 minutes into macing him in the eyeballs, I switched to pepper spray. He's like, it's all right, refreshing. And went back to the mace.
Magic is dying. I'm done. Selling everything.
I might be a hoarder. And yes,
I don't have the crayons or glue to explain this to you right now.
What, are you gonna die twice?
Oil will be worthless before magic cards will.
Well, okay, Dr. Man.
That's Mr. Dr. Professor Jason.
Brainstorm Brewery.
And welcome in, everybody. Look, happy Halloween. Look at this beautiful picture that our editor is putting up on the screen right now of this pumpkin that my wife carved for Brainstorm Brewery. If any of you can top this in next year, look, I'm putting this out there a year in advance. If you can top this pumpkin a year from now, I will send you some very expensive magic goodies. I got some Masters packs over
You'll
there.
get
We'll
the
find
same
something.
prize Corbin's wife did, and you don't want that.
Two beautiful children. You can have them. I'll let you have them for a few days.
You can have one of Corbin's kids.
Well, welcome into the show, everybody. We're Brainstorm Brewery. I'm Corbin Hostler. That was Jason. You heard DJ Johnson's around, and we have a frequent guest back on this week, Paul Feudo, because we are going to talk about...
Paul puts the freak in frequent guest.
We are going to talk about a lot tonight. We've got Vegas. We've got Crimson Vow. They had the actress from Daredevil preview the set. Did you all catch that?
I was
Yeah,
informed
I don't know what Daredevil has to do with vampires, but...
I was told that she was the actress from True Blood.
Yeah,
so
but we don't
that-
acknowledge True Blood because True Blood was terrible.
I was actually going to say Escape Room
Have you
Girl.
watched True Blood?
No.
Have you seen
Yes,
an
I
episode
have.
of True Blood?
I have seen a
Oh
lot.
my God.
I've seen a lot.
Suki!
True Blood had a very specific purpose, and it had nothing to do with
I'm
the
not
plot.
from England, I'm from the South,
That's
Suki!
weird because people only watched it for the plot.
The plot of those men with their shirts off, absolutely, Corbin, but it had nothing to do with the writing.
I thought the previous show was kind of cool, by the way.
I mean,
It was fine.
having... Wait, wasn't Joe Manganiello on True Blood?
Exactly, this is what I'm talking about,
Why didn't
Jason.
they just get Joe Manganiello?
I don't know.
Because he was a werewolf?
Because he does the
Well,
D&D
it's not
branding, too.
Midnight
Like, he
Hunt.
already has ties with the company.
He has an EDH deck. As long as they don't get Post Malone, I'm cool with it.
They couldn't afford Post Malone with their budgeting marketing.
As
like, their
a
marketing budget.
Magic
Come on.
community, when we're Post Malone, that'll be a good time.
That could be like an article of yours in 2 years. The Post Malone.
The
EDH.
Post Malone.
The Post Malone stuff's cool. I don't care what you all say.
It's wild that someone is like, I think I'm famous enough to just unabashedly play EDH all day. I just think that's fucking crazy. He's like, I'm too famous for people to like be upset that I'm a nerd now. I think that's ballsy.
Yeah.
But like him
Yeah.
having too much money to care about that, I think is pretty.
Well, there's
cool.
there's
I
a lot
think
of
yeah. I think more famous people should do that to be like, yeah.
Well, he also did that like virtual Pokemon concert.
Yeah, like look,
Yeah.
there's a lot of famous people who are kind of into nerdy stuff, and maybe they'll even do they'll take the paycheck to do some nerd event or whatever, right? But look, I'm not trying to gatekeep or whatever here. I'm just saying that Post Malone is really into it, right? Like
Katy Perry is on a Pikachu card.
yeah, like I'm not saying Post Malone like plays some Magic and it's like Post Malone is like
plays the shit out of some Magic together.
like it's which is just it's just different. You're right. He's saying that I'm not going to limit my Twitter account to my professional interests because I have millions of followers or whatever.
No, he's going to do quite the opposite, where all of his tweets are like, yeah, play an EDH, and everyone's like, release another record. Like every tweet. Everyone who follows him on Twitter is following him for not Magic, and he doesn't give a.
That's what I'm saying. I love it.
He's
Yeah,
like,
like,
I
he made it
posted
and is
a
living his
deck
best
list
life.
of my new deck, and I lost 1.7 million followers. Come on. See, gangster rappers think they're ballers because they're like, oh, I bought a chain that was like completely molybdenum. It's way more rare than platinum. This cost $3 million, you know? And then Post Malone's like, I just 5 million Twitter followers. And I do not care. That's a baller move.
It is. I mean, the real currency is people's attention. Like, money is nothing. People's attention is premium.
True.
Well, and to do it in a way that I personally like, rather than putting a gemstone in your forehead that gets stolen, or something like that. He found a cool, nerdy way to get people's attention, to get such a small number of people's attention.
Anyways,
I guess speaks to its authenticity, right? That's part of why it's great.
Yeah, and that's why Post Malone rules.
There you go. Well, welcome into the show, everybody. We're going to talk. Our big subject tonight is going to be MTG Vegas coming up. But before we dive into that, let's play. I know this is Paul's favorite game. It's Breaking Bulk.
Breaking Bulk time. Breaking Bulk time. Break.
Oh, yeah, Breaking Bulk. There's so much good stuff.
It's a pick. Breaking Bulk. The end.
Everything's getting cut, listeners at home. I'm sorry, but you're here with us now. There's some after hours for everyone who's gone to patreon.com/BSB and signed up. DJ, What is your Breaking Bulk?
We are 45 minutes into this episode, and we have 3 minutes recorded.
I have a Shadowmoor Black Uncommon that has 2 reprints, both of which are incredibly small in quantity.
Is it the Changeling?
No.
Beseech the Queen.
No.
That's a good one. Is it mono black?
Shadowmoor's the Dragon Wing?
I always thought of it as like a ghost. It's like a little...
There's a Dragon Wing and a Fairy Wing. Which one is it?
Dragon Wing.
It's Dragon Wing.
Is it supposed to be a Dragon Wing?
Yeah.
It's not the Fairy Wing.
But that's what he's talking about, yeah.
There's a Dragon Wing and a Fairy Wing.
It's not a Dragon Wing. It's a little ghost.
Okay.
Either way, we understand which set you're talking about. Jesus Christ.
I'm very... have you ever played that? No. Like,
oh my god.
Have you ever played this game? No, Corbin, this is important. Okay. And it's Magic related. Have you ever played the game of, like, have non-Magic player guess Magic set symbol, like, what they are? It's such a fun game.
I mean,
like
there's certainly some good ones, I would imagine. Like Urza's Beaker. And Urza's
just
Hammer.
Like Spider is a set symbol. That one's pretty obvious. Tiny House is a set. Scythe is a set. It's a fun game.
Right, but the problem is that you say it's a fun game, and then there's like 45 that are bad.
Is it
Blowfly Infestation ever get a reprint?
It did not, Jason. If it did, it was not.
It's the sweeper, the 5-mana thing, the -1/-1 counters.
I don't know if I'd call it a sweeper, but I
kill
think
3 creatures.
Incremental
poison,
incremental blight
or something.
Incremental blight. 5-mana sorcery. Put a 1- counter on 1 creature. 2- counters on another creature, 3- counters on a third creature, reprinted an arch enemy in Plane Chase, so those 3 printings add up to like a third of a regular printing.
Yeah, no kidding.
And this card regularly goes for like $1, and it is just not particularly good. It's been power crept. I mean, Hepetra.
Yeah, exactly.
Other -countery stuff, probably. But
the arch enemy and Plane Chase versions are certainly very close to $1.75 on the others. Wherever it's getting played, it is very close to a pick, yeah.
Corbin, the thing with some of these kinds of cards in their price range is, like, it says 75 cents. You can list them for $1 and they'll sell because they sell with other cards that customers will fill their cart with.
Yeah.
That's just, you're playing the TCG player direct game.
Yeah, or just the people buying their decks. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to hop in. I've got this card was most recently in Commander Legends. It's a white uncommon. Was originally in Shadows.
Open the Armory.
It is Open the Armory.
Yeah.
It was a little... I thought you all would get that one. I wasn't trying to stump you this week. But Open the Armory is always a solid card. It's 75 cents, close to $1. It kind of fell off of buy lists a little bit, at least some, when it came out in Commander Legends. But it was 30 cents then, and it's already sort of doubled up in that sense since the beginning of the year. So yeah, it's a solid $1 card. I think a lot of the time, if you Why didn't you open the armories in your Commander Legends bulk?
You're not. Like, who's gonna give you bulk that has that card in it? Like,
Bro, that card was 30 cents 3 months ago.
I guess, but it was still very pickable because I don't know. Like, I feel like people that sell me bulk pick out like Fencing Ace because it was good like 10 years ago. Like, I don't get cards like that. I do get the card that is my breaking bulk. Which
How many
is,
demonic consultations did you find?
that was a store's inventory, sir.
Okay.
Good day, sir.
Good day.
Rent free.
Speaking of rent free, if your rent isn't free, you can pay your rent by picking this dark steel uncommon out of your bulk.
Well, you got to do better than that.
No,
And?
I don't. You know what color it is already. It's an artifact.
Okay.
So, you knew it was an artifact. It's from Darksteel.
I know.
It's a
Is it
creature.
Spawning Pit? Oh, it's
Core Tapper.
It's a 2/2.
Ooh. Mirror Galv? No, that's Scars.
You know what? I did better. It's a 2/2 artifact creature that costs 4 colors. You still are not gonna get it.
Frogmite.
And these are $1.
Frogmite is from Mirrored, and you're wrong.
Yeah. Oh, it's the thing that gives
Frogmite is a
counters. It's
0
like
mana 2/2. If you pay 4 mana for Frogmite, you're a dork.
Whatever.
Is this
4
a
mana.
2/2 for 4 that does something with +1/+1 counters, or am I?
I didn't say
hallucinating that
+1/+1 counters. I said it's from Darksteel.
I'm over
Paul, I think are you thinking of
I'm over it.
the big mirror that like taps artifacts to get bigger?
Yeah, that's a rare.
Voltaic Construct. Pay 2 colorless mana, untap target artifact creature.
Okay.
Oh wow!
Hot
I forgot that card
Garbo.
existed.
Hot
Sure.
Garbo. However, almost $1. This is one of those cards that you will get in bulk.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
Absolutely.
this is one of those cards that is still in my bulk because I don't pick these.
Yep.
I've got one.
Yeah,
of those.
it went up recently. I mean, this is a 2021 move, so this is a really good breaking bulk.
What was this? Why?
It shot
Oswald
up.
Fiddlebender.
There you go.
Sure. So it lets you birthing pod up the chain to play the deck once and then take it apart.
Yep.
Well, Oswald isn't an artifact creature, so you can't untap it with.
But you'll like you like liquid metal coating him or whatever, right?
Yeah, or Osgear plays this also. Osgear was a this year deck. Urza Lord High Artificer can make great use of this.
Mm-hmm.
Cody Vociferous Codex. So of the decks that play this, the majority of them were printed in the last,
Couple, yeah.
18
Sure.
months.
Makes
So,
sense.
These are in your bulk for sure because they
Yes.
are mine.
That's a good one. I was not going to guess that.
Every time I go back through my bulk, there's a card like the next week that pops, and I'm like, I'm not doing all that again. So it's either I set sort and alphabetize my bulk to make it easier on myself, or I just be like, look, man, there's going to be some voltaic constructs in these instant collections I'm sending out. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
when
it's
I got out the Shrieking Drakes, I just had to tell myself I'm not doing this again, and I have to be okay with that.
It's a reasonable price to pay, honestly.
It's about self-care, really.
The ability to
I-
reframe things into self-care is what's going to get us through the climate apocalypse.
I remember in 2011, someone tweeted, if you pick dimes, you hate yourself. And I was like, you know what? That's the most jacked up thing I ever heard. And now I'm like, it's only $1. I'm not digging through a 5-row box for $1.
You're a
Come on
boomer.
now.
You're a
What do
boomer.
I buy list that for? 55 cents? I got money moves to make over here.
It's one spreading seas, Michael. What could it cost? $7?
Meme that one, please, JJ, right here. Let's do it. All right, let's get some
Yeah,
more breaking bulks in here.
The best memes are just quoting a TV show. Otherwise known as original content.
The best OCs. I have a breaking bulk that's super useless to the point where I definitely forgot that it was a card. It's an uncommon from Guild Pact, and it's white and mono white.
Is this something of the Nephilium?
Nope.
There's like the cycle of them.
You mean Nephilim?
I think
whatever.
you meant Nephilim.
Nephilim were they're like the seraphim. They're
Oh,
from
is
the
this
Bible.
Is it the one where the protection from monocolored or protection from multicolored?
No, that's the 2/3. This is
What
a spell.
set did you say this was from?
Guild Pact.
Which is it or is it does it have haunt?
It is a mono white card that is not a creature.
There's
There's
mono white cards that have haunt.
Yeah,
aren't
Belfry,
creatures?
Belfry Spirit or whatever.
Yeah, there's lots of creatures. This is a spell card.
Oh, is it the untap your stuff?
Yep, 2 arms.
Yes,
Two
I have 2
arms.
arms. What card is it?
Exclamation point after the 2 arms.
How many Magic cards have exclamation points?
Akon's
Not a ton.
Run.
Not
Yeah,
a ton at all.
to arms, it's a 2-mana untap cantrip. It's pretty spicy.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's just
only
like
printed once.
vitalize, but you draw a card. Is that it?
And it's in white.
Oh man,
and
throw this
No,
on an
yeah,
Isochron
70
Scepter
cents.
and have a creature that untaps an artifact. You got a stew,
It's
baby.
almost-
You can draw your whole deck in
Yeah, it's
mono
a-
white.
Mono white version that's worse than the blue one that takes 2 cards.
Correct. Correct. Look, man, everybody's just trying to build Hermit Druid. Everyone's talking about Cultivator Colossus now as the new way to draw your whole deck.
Can we talk about how that card is miserable design-wise?
Well, let's talk about that card first. This was one of the new ones previewed today. It's this big mono green mythic 7-mana dork. It's a star trample. Its power and toughness equal to the number of lands you control. When it enters the battlefield, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield tapped. If you do, draw a card and repeat this process. You don't like it, DJ? I mean, it's just
You
a
may
big,
put So, okay.
it's a big dumb creature.
I want DJ to talk about this first because I have lots of opinions about this card.
I think that there are a lot of ways you can design landfall cards that do not include the words draw a card on them. And the fact that this is an enter the battlefield ability instead of a combat damage trigger on your big tramply monster just seems absurd to when I think of like reusing enter the battlefield triggers, I think of like small utility creatures like Eternal Witness or like just whatever like Flame Tongue Kavu-esque things. Like, looping this just feels wrong when you should be, like, stomping faces with it.
You don't need to loop this. That's the thing. You go off in like, it's one ETB trigger creates
and then
a chain.
and then 3 people F6 for 10 minutes, and that's your game design.
Yeah.
So, there's
you
a lot of
can't-
things wrong with it.
You can't do medium stuff with this. Right? Like, this card is either, like, 7 mana in a deck that honestly could just play a 7-mana spell that wins the game automatically, and I think drawing your whole deck is
How
a really
often-
boring way to win the game.
How often do those 2 stars in the bottom right-hand corner matter on this card?
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to attack with this.
Which is why it's bad design.
Yeah. This is Grave Titan having
Death Touch,
Death
yeah.
Touch.
right? Like,
I'll buy that.
you can't do anything medium with this. You can only either just have it be like the Coiling Oracle for 7 mana, or it's just like, oh, well, I used Abundance to rip every land out of my deck and draw the whole thing. Or, I have bounce lands, so I just draw my whole deck. Like, you can't draw
Bounce lands do not draw your whole deck for what it's worth. They don't combo with it.
In
Because
what way do they not?
The triggers don't go on the stack until this ability has resolved.
Okay. So Abundance then.
I'm sure there are ways to combo with
Abundance
it,
or
but
just
bounce
like
lands are not one of them.
ways
Like,
to
Either
like,
this
just-
is terrible because it's 7
I-
mana,
I'm
so
with
like
you on that,
your hand
Jason,
is
I
devoid of
understand.
lands. So either it's terrible, or you do a little bit of work so
Yeah.
that you draw your whole deck. There's
Yeah.
there's no medium with this card. I think that
Yeah.
kind of sucks.
If
Because
this card triggered on combat damage, it would be so friggin' cool.
Yeah.
You'd either have to give it haste, which is additional effort, and then get it through a combat cycle, which allows people to, like, do interesting math based on blockers and, like,
I
lands
agree.
in play, and, like, okay, I can send my entire swarm at it, and then it doesn't hit me, and then we have a turn to get around it. Like, it's just, why does this do its thing on ETB? That's all I want to know.
All right, you've talked me into this card being bad design. I hadn't given it much thought, but you guys are right about that.
But like the Kodama already exists and is already like kind of a problem.
Kodama is pretty silly.
Did you need to do another like card that would occupy the exact same spot in the deck as Kodama?
They print a lot of cards these days, Jason.
Soon?
They gotta. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, I guess Kodama was 19 sets ago, which is a lifetime in
Exactly.
design years.
Exactly. Like you're being hyperbolic, but not that much.
Yeah.
So. Yep.
Paul, what is your favorite card previewed so far?
I don't like this card.
To touch on that card, that's exactly the type of card that's going to pre-sell really well, and then like once boxes get broken, it's going to just die, because it's designed to get customers who already have like decks built to just like buy the 3 cards from the new set for their deck. Like that's its purpose in existing as a mythic. And so it's, if you want one because you want to be a degen or you already have an abundance or whatever, like just wait a month and a half and it'll be a quarter of the price it is tomorrow.
They printed a card just for DJ. Grolnok the Omnivore is a Simic card that isn't like every other Simic card. So there you go. You don't draw cards, you just make your graveyard into your hand. It's different.
I'm really interested to see what... Sorry, go ahead.
It's every other Simic card. They have yet to design an interesting Simic legend since hang on.
Since Slogurk?
Momir Vig.
I'm gonna go to 2-color. I'm gonna go to Simic.
Mirko, the dude from the D&D set. The guy that you had to have a different...
What DJ's not taking into
that
account...
card's not interesting either.
What DJ's not taking into account is that there's actually 37 different blue-green mythics to look at.
I would say Azuri Claw of Progress is the most interesting,
get
uniquely designed Simic commander.
Because it does white card stuff on a Simic card. That's like that's Joey Schultz's least favorite Simic card.
Ooh.
All that stuff should have been white.
Oh my god.
These are opinions.
Have you heard Joey Schultz rant about that card? I haven't. He gets heated about it, yeah.
All right, I'm going to throw this one to you all. The card Necro Duality. Yeah, Necro Duality, 4 mana, blue enchantment. Whenever a non-token zombie enters the battlefield, create a token. It's currently worth $1 billion for the couple people who have it listed. To me, though, this seems like a card that's going to be popular forever. So, what do we know about Necro Duality?
Okay, so Necro Duality isn't the parallel lives in this set because Mark Rosewater said in quotes, twice that many of those tokens are created instead. And Parallel Lives says it puts twice that many of those tokens onto the battlefield instead. So it's not word for word from Parallel Lives, but it's not what is on the card Necro Duality.
Agreed. So we're still live.
If Parallel Lives were printed today, it would have that text.
Yes, because of the changes.
Create
to the
token instead of ETB. Yeah,
but I like Necro Duality. I think it's more interesting than Parallel Lives, especially with stuff with like Maskwood Nexus running around. So like you can have zombie shenanigans and non-zombie decks.
I just think that this is it's just this kind of like a Rooftop Storm vibe to me, right? Like it's a zombie enchantment that is it's only going in one thing, but it seems insane for a zombie deck, right? And this seems enormously popular long term, and it's a mythic. I'm very interested to see how low this one goes in price because I like this one a lot in the long term. It just looks like a card that would do well.
Because it's so narrow.
It's narrow, but it's also a mythic, and it's for a hugely popular tribe, and it's an effect that there does not, this effect doesn't exist that I'm aware of in any popular measure in a zombie deck. So it just seems like a whole new piece of tech for zombies to build around. It seems like it generated a lot of interest.
It just seems like you just KO somebody with Geralt's Messenger.
You could also do that.
That does seem good.
I think the key to this is going to be how low the extended arts go.
Yeah.
Because this is very obviously a card that if the next time they have a zombie theme in a year and a half, it could just as easily be in one of the decks, very easily.
Right, the Rooftop Storm comparison is...
Right. But they didn't make extended art Rooftop Storms, and they're going to make extended arts of this, and I think that's the difference. Because the playability appeal of this card is fairly obvious, and them doing it in a way that's limited to specific creature types is, I think, like a better design model going forward, so we don't have the fucking parallel lives problem, or Anointed Procession or Doubling Season or whatever, where they go in everything, and that's why they're $1 billion. Like I don't think this is a card that's supposed to be pre-selling at like 20 or whatever, but if you can, I'd be looking at it at like single, like, I don't know, depending on where the set is, like.
Do you think we get to
under
$5 on this card?
5 is like the magic number I was kind of thinking about, because if it gets to 5 on extended arts, then someone's just going to buy them all. And it might be me or someone else in this cast. But I think that's kind of the target number here, because like it's a very easy card where like you could see the extended art going to like 15 in like 18 to 24 months, like fairly easily. Like it's very reasonable. Buy list goes to 10 or 12. It's an easy more than double up. It makes sense.
I've learned a lesson from, and I mean, to be fair, it's not a lesson that we haven't known, but the card Dragon Tempest, it was originally released in Dragons of Tarkir as a rare. Dragons were popular, blah, blah, blah. The card was like 50 cents or $1. And we said, oh, well, this card is surely going to go up. Dragons will be popular again in the future. This will be worth money. This is great. And then they downshifted it to uncommon and iconic masters, and it felt like the spec was dead. It was 16 cents a couple years ago after that printing, and it felt like, wow, that sucks. I have 50 Dragon Tempests or whatever, and it's worth nothing. Well, guess what? Dragons are still popular 10 years later. People are still building dragon decks, and Dragon Tempest, despite the downshift and despite other printing since then, is a $5 card. And so I think that's just the lesson to apply to some of these things for some of these tribe specific cards for very popular tribes. So here's that it just doesn't matter. It's just it'll get there. It's just a question of how low it's going to go before it does.
Well, and you make a good point. Go to edhrec.com/tribes. The top 100 tribes are listed in terms of how many decks are built with that tribal affiliation. Number 1 is elves, number 2 is zombies, number 3 is dragons, number 4 is goblins, number 5 is vampires. So when you're like, oh, no one gives a shit about, like ninja tribal or tree folk tribal or something like that. Yeah, but you can't really say the same thing about zombies, elves, goblins, dragons,
Angels.
Or vampires. They are insanely popular. So like an order of magnitude. Right? There are like 11,000 elf decks in the last 2 years versus like 180 crab decks. So you're like, well, crabs are pretty cool.
Jason, Hedron crab is $8, I will have you know.
Yeah.
Rat colony is 3.
So I think saying, oh, I think this tribe is popular. All tribes are popular because it's a very lazy way to build a deck, and people love when a deck builds itself.
I love a tribal deck.
But the tribe itself matters. If we're talking 11,000 decks in 2 years, or if we're talking 600 scarecrow decks, I think that number matters too. So the absolute numbers don't matter. It's not like there's a cutoff where 5,000 or above is good or whatever. I'm just saying there are 25 times as many elf decks as there are, spirits. So that's something to look at.
Yep, that's a great point.
If that data exists, avail yourself of it.
Yeah, great point.
Can we talk about how WotC reinforces the idea of working for exposure and tips in this set? Wedding Security is a 5-mana 4/4 uncommon. The flavor text is, in lieu of payment, he was granted permission to devour any unauthorized visitors. Don't work for free! Or tips.
I think if Arnold Schwarzenegger crashed the wedding and, broke open a window and killed a vampire with a sunbeam, he'd be like, you work for exposure? As the vampire's like, oh, I get it. Exposure to sunlight as he's catching fire.
Thank you, both of you, for that input. All right, so coming up, I want to make a little announcement here while we are diving into the subject of Magic Vegas. It's not a GP, it's not a Magic Fest. I guess it's just an event in Vegas. Channel Fireball's putting on. There's not going to be any video coverage, and they weren't going to bring me out to do any text coverage like I've been doing at Magic events for a long time. So I went to the internet, I looked for options, and Ben Bateman, Alex Kessler at Masters of Modern podcast came through. So I will be at the event in Vegas providing coverage of the Modern event, deck list, deck text, interviews, the works. Please, everybody, go support Masters of Modern podcast. One, because it's great, and two, because they're really putting their money where their mouth is here and supporting the community. So that's huge. So on the topic of Vegas, I'm going to be there. DJ and Paul, you're going to be there. What are you expecting out of this show, which is November 18th through the 20th?
Vegas is going to be, I mean, we had an SCG Con this weekend that I heard from some people went all right and some people went well. I think the big thing is honestly, as much as it's going to be trying to get us back into these normal routines of, you go play Magic in a convention center, you sell cards to a vendor, you screw around with your money, you go home. I think we really aren't sure what it's going to be like. I've bought a couple of times at shows during COVID, but certainly not to the scale that you're going to have at a Magic event that's not a fest or Grand Prix or whatever. So I think the routine's going to be the same, but as far as the specifics and the interactions, honestly, I'm not sure and would love other people's input, frankly.
It seems like it's the get-together of the year, I'll say that, or the last 2 years.
I do think that the number of people at the event will be very high. I expect to be very busy throughout the weekend, but I don't know what my expectations or predictions will be beyond that, which feels weird to say because I just know that I'll be buying a bunch of Magic cards this weekend, but I don't know what it's going to look like because people have 2 years worth of stuff that they've bought and have been waiting to sell. But we could also just see a ton of crazy stuff come out of the woodworks because of the big boom in Pokemon and all the other card games recently, where it's somebody could just bring $100,000 in Pokemon, and that could be a wild I don't know. I have no idea what Vegas is going to look like, and I'm excited for it. I'm a little worried because it's my first time back buying in person at a show, so I feel confident in a lot of my numbers, but it's like going to take the final exam of a class you haven't been to in 2 years.
Well, how do the two of you study for that? I get it when you're doing it every week, you're just gonna pick them up, but having not done this, how the hell are you gonna prep?
So I think that one of the actually I thought of something after my little preamble is one thing that is going to be happening that weekend is that transactions are just going to take way longer than you're used to if you've been to Magic events previously. Because the fact is that there's literally too many cards to actually study for at this point.
Exactly.
You should know standard, be able to just do standard without looking it up, at least non-foil. And stuff from the past year, your MH2, your Modern Horizons 2 should be down pretty cold, but
Commander deck stuff is
right. Or if someone comes up to me with a Mercadian Mass Foil Rashadan board, it's I don't even have a baseline for how much that card's now.
Old stuff and new stuff. Somebody can bring me a command, a pile, a 70 card pile. I bought all the Commander decks over the past year. It's I don't know what Zazzlethorpe is. Maybe he's $5. Maybe he's a bulk rare. Who knows?
Yeah. So transactions are going to take a while this show. Because we just don't know.
Here's the next question then. Do you all anticipate... Look, talk about Modern Horizons too. There's 20 different versions of cards, right? Do you just say, this is our baseline for all but whatever? Or are you really just going to have 20 prices for every different rare in Modern Horizons too?
For me personally, you can use mnemonic devices. You can use groups of things together. It's the easiest way for me to memorize cycles of cards is you just, when you are going over a list and you see Darkslick Shores, then you go through the numbers of the other four, and that's how you learn those cycles. So if Verdant Catacombs was 15, 18, 21, 25. I'm making up numbers for whatever it was.
Yeah.
If I just know those 4 and I know what order the numbers are in, then it's like remembering one number, but it's really remembering 4 numbers, if that makes sense.
No, that makes sense.
And like for the different variant printings and all that, we do have some experience with that, like because Eldraine and Theros were what happened before the shutdown. And yes, Modern Horizons 2 has a significantly higher number of printings, but like there's still just like you can start to see a pattern between like, okay, the regular one is X, which means the extended one is Y, which means the foil one is Z. And
that
like
makes sense.
a lot of the time those numbers aren't too different unless you get into the weird outliers where somebody's like, I have an extended art foil Ragavan, and you're like, yep, that number's way different than the normal one.
Yeah, sure. Makes sense. I do have one. This is the only... I prepped a small list of questions beforehand. The last question I would ask of the two of you, as people who are going to be vending in Vegas. We know what Vegas has done in the past. People have done estimates of how much money has exchanged hands over the course of a day in that convention center, blah, blah, blah. Now, we don't know if this is going to be, a medium-sized event, or if it's going to be the biggest thing ever since it's back. We don't, or if it's just going to be small because people don't, want to go get run. We don't know what this house is going to get compared to Vegas's past. But given the way the market has moved and the way things have gone over the past year and a half, you expect this to be a major shock to the supply end of the secondary market here? Is enough going to happen in Vegas to functionally change the direction of the market or the way cards are going?
I think in order to properly answer that question, we need to know what direction you think the market is going currently before we can say whether it changes direction from that.
Well, what I'm saying is, do you expect enough of a shock from this one event to say drop things 10% overnight because that much more is coming on the market, that sort of thing, or is that just not the way it'll work?
I think the market was efficient before because it was like a well-oiled machine. It was lots of events all over the country for weeks. So everyone could be like, well, it may take us 4 months to get everything, from buying to out. But like when you stop that and start it again, it's not going to immediately be as smooth as it was before because everything has to get booted back up. So all the cards coming in aren't going to be listed immediately. So the stuff getting listed maybe was bought 2 events before, and it was just, the whole system was running smoothly, so it was continuous. And now you have a big stoppage. So I think it could. I think we're going to realize how long it takes one event to be felt by the entire market, which has dozens of different people playing dozens of different roles. So
and that was my question. I mean, if the whole thing we've talked about for the past year and a half is how the supply chain has been disrupted in Magic without events for people to sell cards at, it's okay. Well, now we're coming back, and it's coming back with a bang between SCG Con and the CFB event. Is it going to have will these events resuming have a noticeable impact financially on just Magic? That's what I'm wondering. I don't know. I'm not putting you on the spot. This is obviously nothing we can know the answer to, but hey, this is what I thought would be an interesting discussion.
I think we will see stuff, and it probably will return to normal if we have the same frequency of events we had before. But
yeah, true. It's just they're one-offs right now.
I don't think there will be an instantaneous impact on the market. I think things move a little more slowly than people might think.
Paul, what do you think?
I think the market's going to take a shit by the second week of December. So basically the way this timetable works is so we had SCG Con. Stuff from that batch is going to be processed and start to upload this week and the next week, depending on how different stores prioritize format versus set order, whatever. Right. And at the same time, major stores also have to worry about fulfilled by Amazon deliveries getting to Amazon warehouses in time for getting Prime orders out for Christmas. So you already have 2 taxes on staff there. And then you have GP Vegas, and you're going to have that batch coming in when you haven't even sold all of the SCG Con batch, if you have one. And even if you don't, you have had to reprice stuff based upon all these cards coming into the market. Then GP Vegas happens, and a bunch of cards are going to be heading into the market a few weeks after that. But we also have a Crimson Vow release that weekend too. Which means that a bunch of discretionary spending is going to be spent on the set release because that's what happens. It's why they do the marketing, whatever. The problem is that the week after GP Vegas is Black Friday, which is another peak expenditure of discretionary spending money.
Yep.
So you have all that happening, but the problem is that, like we just talked about, you can't get a GP Vegas batch online in a week, which means that people have already had 2 separate occasions to spend all their around money before the GP Vegas batch gets actually uploaded online. Which means that, and that combined with the fact that people can do things now. Like, we had a market for a year and a half where people couldn't, like, just take a trip to Hawaii. And now they can.
You still can't.
Well,
No.
You can if you're whatever. But the point is that people have choices with what to do with their money now. So there's less money available for the market, and what is available is getting tapped twice before people get to actually upload their stock.
Yeah.
And so it's not necessarily that there's going to be a ton of cards that drive the market down, but I don't know how many people are going to be buying stuff. And, like, there just isn't going to be money going into the market at that point. Like, it's traditionally slow because it's Christmas coming up, and you have 2 other reasons where people aren't going to have money. And so I don't want it to be really bad, but I think that the order volume is just going to be terrible, and that's going to make people race to the bottom.
Here's my, I don't know about, like, counterpoint, but just, like, thought process. We had sort of a similar expectation at the start of the top of the roller coaster that was these past 2 years of, like, COVID is this giant tsunami that's heading towards us, and we're like, Magic cards are going to tank. People are going to be unable to pay their rent. They're going to sell their we're like, Magic card, like, red arrow meme go down, whatever. And then we learned that, like, Magic cards would continue to go up because, like, for some reason the Magic player money well seemed to be bottomless during COVID. And some of it was stimulus checks, some of it was, like, people just being like, I guess my vacation is canceled money, but, like, there does seem to be this well of just, like, Magic cards continue to go up because Magic players will continue to buy Magic cards even when they shouldn't.
True.
And,
right, but if the... Sorry.
And I think COVID coincided nicely with the advent of webcam EDH to people that weren't necessarily going to buy paper cards. Like, if EDH didn't exist, people wouldn't have bought any paper cards during the pandemic. People would have just played digital.
Yeah.
Because,
100%.
like, well, I can't play FNM in person. Why am I buying an FNM deck? So, webcam EDH saved paper Magic. So,
Yeah, the
that
domestic US, I
coinciding
think,
with
absolutely.
COVID was really nice. Like, the sale of Spell Table, like, happening within the first 3 months of COVID, was why revenue for sites that mostly sell EDH cards, like Card Kingdom, like, didn't go down.
Yeah.
I mean, Amazon was like out of stock of, like, C920 webcams for, like, a month, right? Like,
Well, that was probably longer than that. I remember my wife's work was trying to rush to buy 200 webcams or whatever, like, the week of shutdown, and just okay.
Good luck.
Okay. Anyways, all right. Well, that's an interesting discussion. And look, at the end of the day, we've got a lot of clues here, and that's why it's an interesting conversation. But we'll see where it goes with Vegas. But where this podcast is going is the pick of the week.
Pick of the week, pick of the week, pick of the week. Time for the pick of the week.
All right, I'm going to come in with my pick of the week. It's a recent one, but I think it's a pretty good one here. Idyllic Tutor, reprinted in Theros Beyond Death, originally
You
printed
said
in...
toot.
I did, sure. Originally printed in Morningtide. Card's $5. It looks like it's maybe starting to come right below $5. Looking like it's maybe starting to come off its low. It's been hanging out around the 450 mark for a while, and it's kind of been creeping up a little bit. But remember the original Idyllic Tutor at one point was over $30 for modern play. And while I don't think that's the case now, it's still just a good card, and I think it's been steady enough at $5 that I like picking up any extra.
Sure.
All right, DJ, what do you got?
I was browsing the zombie precon for Commander Innistrad Midnight Hunt the Third Secret Ghost Edition, just a prank, bro. Whatever the set's called, and there's a couple reprints in here that are kind of interesting. One of my favorite ones is actually the most expensive card in this precon right now. I know this isn't a guessing game, but can you guess what the most expensive card in the Commander Innistrad Midnight Hunt is? That's the green-white deck and the blue-black zombie deck.
No, I cannot guess.
I don't know.
Paul's thinking.
I don't know. Nah, I don't have it.
Talisman of Dominance is down to
Fuck yes.
$2. And it's like $2 or $3 for Talisman of Dominance. This card has historically... I have sold multiple copies of this card on TCG Direct for like 12 to 17. Because it's just one of those weird cards that had effectively no supply. It was in Mirrodin and then an Arch Enemy deck. And it is now $3. And I think that it will continue to slowly creep up until it hits like a 5 or a 6. But direct sellers will probably be able to get like 10s for these eventually again before it gets another reprint, because TCG Player Direct is a weird platform sometimes, and there are certain cards that just have very high outlier numbers, and this has historically been one of them.
All right, great. Jason, you're up.
So we talked about that card that I hate that I already forgot the name of. Cultivator Colossus. That's just going to spike abundance. It's just a 2-card combo that lets you like get all the lands out of your deck and potentially draw every card.
It's Chain of Smog, right?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, there are 4 printings of abundance. Most recently, the Zendikar Zendikar Remising.
Remising. I like it.
Remise. There are a lot of copies of this. Many printings. Dual deck, Commander 2017. You probably have some abundances because it was like a bulk rare for a while, but this is probably a $5 to $10 card in the short term, even if it's not real. It's just a dumb thing. Like the saga versions were like going for $4 and then down to like 50 cents on the dual deck version. So like the prices were pretty striated, which was weird, but I kind of think they all go to like 5 in the near term, whether or not, again, forgot the name of the card, Cultivator Colossus. Whether or not that piece of shit actually like makes a good deck. It's just a 2-card combo that is very potent.
It is.
And if one of the cards in the combo is your commander, then it's a 1-card combo. So pick up your abundances today. Go to your LGSs like I did today. I spent all day driving around picking these up. And if you can get them for 50 cents, you did it. If you can get them for $3.50, still do it. Especially the saga versions. All abundance.
Right. Okay. Well, as a reminder, all of our picks come courtesy of MTGstocks.com, the generous sponsor of this podcast, the best source for all of the information for your sealed product, singles, and anything else you want to do with Magic Finance. Paul, do you have a pick you want to send us out on?
I don't remember if you guys did this recently, but Inspiring Statuary is like way too cheap. It's a rare from Aether Revolt, non-artifact spells you cast have Improvise, and similar to like how everyone's been talking about Academy Manufactor, how it like interacts with all these clues and makes all these extra tokens and stuff. Well, Inspiring Statuary does the same thing, and also interacts with like blood tokens and that are in the vampires with or made by the vampires with this set, as well as every other stupid token that they make in the next 5 years.
They
it's
seem
a card
to be
that only
going in
gets
that
better with
direction,
time.
for sure.
Right. Yeah, and I think low's like 3.25 or something like that. The card's gonna be $10 if it doesn't get hit in like a year.
So we didn't really talk about this on this podcast, but like, if you asked me what a blood token does in Magic a week and a half ago.
Oh my god. I would not have predicted that.
Not at all. Yeah.
Like, it's just drain your opponent for 1, right?
Yes.
Like, that's just the obvious answer.
Yes.
Okay. Just wanted to
You are
throw
not
that out
alone
there.
in that. We have Cleave too.
You know,
It's not a very
blood, that thing
elegant
that
set.
makes you draw a card and discard a card. You know, blood, like blood does, like blood.
I think, like, if blood existed as the drain token and there was a card that turned them into the blood tokens we get now, like, that would be really cool. But, like, them just being this makes no sense at all.
No.
It probably plays nicely with future sets or something. Right? It has to be a mechanical thing, I hope. Otherwise, it's just like kind of.
I mean, it somewhat synergizes with Shadows over Innistrad Vampires because they had Madness.
Sure.
Which is like the reach that I tried to put. Like, vampires in Magic have a precedent for caring about discard. But like, that's all I got.
Yeah, it's fine that it rummages, right? So. Like, that's the thing vampire decks want to do. It doesn't make sense for blood, but it makes sense for vampires. So, like, they worked backwards, and I don't hate it, but also, again, if you'd asked me to guess what a blood token does, and you put a gun to my head, I never would have in a million years come up with the blood token they came up with, so.
Yep. All right. Well, there you go, everybody. That's a show. Thank you very much for listening. As always, Paul, where can people find you across the interwebs?
Basically only at my Twitter account, which is at PRFEUDO. That's basically my only internet presence until we start having real shows again and stuff. So find me there.
Yeah. Well, we'll see if anyone's interested. You can find both DJ and Paul at the TOA booth in Vegas if you're there, and you can find me running around doing some coverage. Hopefully. So, everybody, thank you so much for listening to Brainstorm Brewery. We'll see you next week.